So when he said, as we haven't seen each other since last December, I should start with what has been happening last year. And in 2020, I started this project, the virtual reality experience, where I use my artistic sort of leaning to try to express what the visuals are, or the experience is, when you enter into altered states of consciousness. And so far I have about 9 experiences I've recorded, and it's really going quite well. I've broken it down into subjects. I want to do some experiences where I want to do it documentary like a movie, but instead of presenting it as a film, I want people to be in the movie as I narrate it. And one of the experiences was the lower astral plane, or 2 I made of the lower astral plane. One where you can actually walk through it, and the other one is more like a documentary where a voice explains the situation. And during this experience, people should get a feeling of what it is like, because you're surrounded by it, you get a bit of the atmosphere. And a very good friend of mine, Craig Bruce, who just finished a Hollywood movie doing the soundtrack to a film called The Lady of Heaven, which is about Prophet Muhammad and is funded by the Islamic faith from various camps, and is a more enlightened view of Islam, which I'm interested in and looking forward to hear, because there's a lot in religions, in the various religions, which has got the same source.
This world has become a breeding ground of violence. Shadow will be cast across many generations to come.
This thing, in this life and the hereafter, is the spreading of peace in the world.
Lady Fatima's goodness inspired people to stand up, no matter what the cost.
So Craig did the music, so he was quite busy, but we are now working together again on the projects I set myself, and I hope something will come out after I've solved all the technical problems that have befallen me. But the thing is, of course, my meditation work, of course, hasn't stopped. And earlier this year, I went on a retreat in a little wooden hut in Devon, and I meditated like I did when I went to Scotland. And there I had some really incredible breakthrough experiences which left a imprint on me and my work. And the last work I'm working on at the moment was inspired by one of the experience, and I call it Embraced by the Goddess. And that was an experience I had when I went on the retreat, that I had it started off being very aware, very conscious of a divine presence which is always around us, which is always there. We just don't experience it because we use our mind to follow thoughts, and we are distracted by other things. But the presence is always there. And so for me, having been meditating for 50 years now, it's quite easy to remind myself of this presence. And the moment I remind myself, it is actually a living experience. And with this living experience, I went on to the retreat, and my meditation was sort of underpinned by this experience. And then in one meditation, I went very deep, and I had a very visual experience. and it was incredibly beautiful. I tried to write it down after I came out of it, but when I read through it, it was just a lot of words, and the words didn't even come near to describe what the experience was like. So I carried this experience around with me for months, and then I started doing this video, this virtual reality video. One of the most profound things was on my retreat, having this encounter with what I call the divine feminine. That's how I experienced it, a divine feminine presence. And I devoted some of my work to it because it had the appearance of incredible embrace, security, warmth, a nurturing aspect, and just this overwhelming love, which you only ever receive from your mother, as a child, and that's why I refer to it as a divine feminine. In my case, I couldn't find any better sort of narrative description for it, and that was, and I also find there are different stages in your unfolding when new things take place which you haven't experienced before, and which you can never anticipate because there are new things that happen in your life. And then it puts it on a new level. And the interesting thing was, spontaneously, a lady contacted me from Germany, and she was a medium. And we started talking, and she said, "Oh, I'm not just a medium, I'm also a singer." And it turned out that she was what do you call this? An act which impersonates other singers. She was a tribute act for Barbara Streisand. She had a very beautiful voice. So I looked her up on Google and listened to her. And then she said, "How about if I do some singing with your videos you're doing?" So that was almost perfect, because at that time I started on the video Embraced by the Goddess, and her voice was incredible because she channeled, she said she channeled angels when she sings. So her voice changes and she speaks in a language which is totally non-human in a way. It's almost like speaking in tongues. But so in her singing she whispers and she sings in a language which sounds almost like a Red Indian sort of kind of language. But what she did was she inspired me with her singing to turn out these incredible visuals, and it all came together. So that is that is the last sort of piece of work I've been working on. So that was what occupied me throughout most of last year or this year, and yeah, and now I'm back to answer more questions. But this work is still ongoing, and I feel I'm in a very good position to produce this work, because the experiences to be had when one goes into a state of consciousness where one is literally embraced by a divine presence, it's not something that can be easily expressed in words. So I think I'm in a very good position to marry sounds and vision together, so when people are surrounded by it, they get at least a feeling what it is like. And that's what I've been working on. And hopefully it will be out in a few weeks or so. So that's my activity this year. I took notes when I was on my retreat. I wrote quite a few pages, but when I got home and read through it, it was just garbage, really. I couldn't put it into a narrative format. So if I'm going to write something again, which I may do, I haven't made any plans. I've got a lot of material in my notebooks, but I feel it's got to be coming almost automatically, you know, because I cannot make it happen using my intent. So it's got to come about because I can't resist it. You know, that's how I feel about it. So before, when I wrote a book, it was the first one was prompted by my daughter. She found my diaries. I would never have written if she hadn't struggled reading it. So that came about through an impulse. Then I had my 10-minute moment, which was almost written for me because of the intensity of the experience in Scotland. And I couldn't resist it. It was just so powerful. Then when I wrote Vistas of Infinity, again, there was an inner sort of urge because I felt there were so many things which were unsaid, left unsaid. So I wanted to round things up. Now that is now nearly 7 years ago, and I started writing, but it didn't have the power behind it. There was too much intent, and when I felt intent was coming, I put it to one side straight away. And so my focus now shifted to my visual things at the moment. But I don't know what's going to happen, you know. Who knows?